Can you imagine living in a place where there are hundreds of caves underneath the city, or where you find pubs in abandoned buildings? These are strange things you could find in Hungary. A landlocked country, Hungary is located in Central Europe with its capital being Budapest. It's one of the most recommended places to visit in Europe because it blends old-world charm with modern cities. But true to their colorful history, Hungary is home to many unique and captivating facts. Hungary is known for its nightlife and beautiful women, and the country has legalized the oldest profession in the world since 1999. That's why you'll easily find establishments in their cities. Even the nation's capital is home to one of Europe's biggest red light districts, located in Rákóczi and József Körút. But watch out, because similar to other countries, you might experience scams in red light district areas. For instance, never hail a taxi or ask them for suggestions, because most taxi drivers are sponsored by a club. They'll charge a fee for taking you to the club, which no doubt will be an expensive one. Once they get you there, the club will pay the driver for bringing customers in. So always go to big clubs or establishments instead of smaller joints. Another way you'll get scammed is by getting approached by women. Some women will approach you to ask how to get to a certain pub. Then they'll say they have a voucher for that club, asking you to join them for the night. When you reach the club, you'll be charged with exorbitant prices and forced to pay. If you don't have the cash, a big Hungarian bodyguard will escort you to the nearest ATM and ask you to withdraw as much money as you can. Girls would approach men and make them drink just to give them exorbitant charges. Some taxi drivers are also paid to take you to the club. You'll get charged and escorted to the nearest ATM to make payment. It may shock you to know that women in Hungary are one of the most educated in the world. There are more women enrolled in higher education or universities than men, and more have stayed and graduated than men. Meanwhile, men are dropping out at a higher rate. That's why education is now a woman-dominated industry. Interestingly, the government released a report that stated that this can be harmful to the future of Hungary. The government reported stating that having too many college-educated women can threaten Hungary's economy and demographics, making it more difficult for women to have children and marry. This in turn will create a birth decline in the country, something that Hungary has already been struggling with. The study also said that education in Hungary has become too feminine, leading to male attributes being underrated. Some have criticized the reports as being too old-fashioned, while others highlighted that Hungary has always faced issues in terms of gender inequality. Do you like warm, relaxing baths? Then Hungary should be your #1 destination, because the country is known as the land of thermal spas. The landlocked country may not have access to the ocean, but it makes up for it with thousands of thermal water springs. Hungary has over 1,300 thermal springs, with 123 in Budapest alone. The baths are filled with minerals that are curative and luxuriously calming. That's why wellness and spa have been a part of Hungarian culture for hundreds of years. Some of the most popular ones are the Turkish bathhouses, with their octagon-shaped pools topped by high dome ceilings. They're located near the Danube bank on the Buda side of Budapest city. There's also the largest thermal lake in Europe, Lake Havíz, which is located on the northwest side of Lake Balaton. You'll find plenty of lotus flowers scattered on the surface of the lake, and the water is warm enough to enjoy even in the winter. Another amazing experience you can only enjoy in Hungary is cave bathing, which is a natural cave with thermal water flowing through it. It's located in the northern western part of the country and is the only thermal bath cave in Europe. If some Asian countries shy away from using the number 4, Hungary instead has an obsession with one number, the number 96. That's right, the country would do anything to use the number 96 within their territory. That's because it's related to the establishment of the Principality of Hungary in 896 AD. The number 96 gained a special significance in the hearts of Hungarians until now. For example, there's a bylaw in the Budapest Building Code that prevents a construction from being over 96 meters high. The only two buildings in the city that reach that height are the Dome of St. Stephen's Basilica and the Dome of the Parliament Building. The Parliament Building was built in 1896 as well, one millennia after the conquest. There are also 96 stairs on the main staircase of the Parliament Building, signifying true symbology in their construction. Additionally, their national anthem is also 96 seconds in length when you sing it at the correct tempo. Aside from the symbolicism, many also believe that restricting buildings to be under 96 meters can allow the city to retain its historic appearance. That's why the city has a nostalgic charm, despite the modern hustle and bustle of the capital. If you're thinking of having a child in Hungary, then you might want to know the Hungarian names that are regulated by law. That's right, you can't just pick and choose any names you like, because Hungarian parents can only select names from a pre-approved list of several thousand names that the government has prepared for you. Some rules in regards to naming are that they are not derogatory or overly diminutive, can be written and pronounced clearly in Hungarian, and should be recognizable as male or female easily. The list is published annually by a government agency, and every parent should consult it before deciding to choose a name for their kids. If you choose something different from the list, you need to have it approved by the Research Institute for Linguistics of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, which is the ultimate authority on names and spelling in general. One interesting case is the name Daenerys, something that many Hungarian parents applied for to name their kids. Daenerys is the name of the Game of Thrones TV show's main character, a popular series worldwide. The recently published list finally included Daenerys in their approved names, but it needs to have the Hungarian phonetic transcription Daenerys. Finding cowboys in America is normal, but as it turns out, Hungary has its version of cowboys called the Csíkos. Living in the Great Hungarian Plain, the Csíkos have developed their own unique culture. Interestingly, instead of being similar to typical Hungarian values, they have more similarities with the cultures of cowboys from the Great Plains in the USA. They've been living the pastoral lifestyle for 2,000 years, mounting horses and having semi-nomadic homes, something that they claimed was forced onto them due to the harsh landscape. The Csíkos are very skilled horsemen, with impressive riding skills you won't see anywhere else. Their signature move is when one horseman rides two horses at the same time while standing and driving three more horses up in front. The sport is now called the Puszta 5 and is still practiced today by the Cowboys of Hungary. When you drink with the Hungarians, there's a rule you need to remember. Never clink your beer glasses when cheering. That's because the country has a certain bad history with people cheering their beer glasses. According to history, the Hungarians rose to go against the Austrians and fight for independence in 1848. Unfortunately, they were defeated, and about 13 Hungarian generals were executed in Harad. The resistance was put to an end, marking the beginning of a long regime of terror and vengeance against the rebel Hungarians. Legend has it that the Austrian officers were disrespectful to the generals and clinked their beer glasses together as the generals were executed. Hungarians vowed to never cheer with beer for 150 years. Until today, they would still not clink their beer glasses because of tradition. Instead of cheering or clinking glasses, Hungarians usually hit the beer glass to the table for a more lively session. Just so you know, other drinks like wine or cocktails are fine to cheer. And don't forget to say "Egészség Gadra" or bless you when you do it, and keep eye contact with whomever you're clinking glasses with, or endure 7 years of bad luck. Still, in the Hungarian drinking culture topic, there's another thing you shouldn't do when drinking in Hungary. Never refuse Pinka. Pinka is the pride of Hungary, a fruit brandy with high alcohol content. Refusing a shot of Pinka is a sign of disrespect, especially when you're a guest. The drink has to be made of 100% fruit content and made from fruit grown in Hungary. The alcohol content of Pinka can vary between 37% to 80%. The drink is a must-have when you visit Hungary, and almost every household will have it inside their cupboard. Many Hungarians believe that Pinka has healing properties. For example, digestive aid, a remedy for colds, an antiseptic, and provides relief from toothache, sore throat, or stomach ache. Some even believe that it could give you a boost of energy when you feel fatigued or sleepy. The high alcohol content is intimidating for first-timers, and Hungarians usually fill the glass to the brim. If you're invited to a drinking session with Hungarians, remember to prepare yourself and get ready to drink Pinka. Have you ever wondered how it feels to have a drink inside an abandoned building? If you are, you're in luck, because the city of Budapest has a trend called Rune or Rune pubs. These are pubs that are located inside abandoned, dilapidated buildings. You'll find yourself in pre-war rooms with crumbling, graffiti-covered walls, simple fairy lights, crawling plants, and mismatched furniture. It was originally found within the former Jewish quarter in Budapest's 7th district. Following World War II, the area became a ghetto and was abandoned well into the 2000s. But Budapest always found pride within its history and repurposed the space. According to legend, it was because young people had issues finding nice places to drink, so they used abandoned buildings. It's now become an aesthetic everyone is into and a unique attraction found in Hungary's capital. Some have made the aesthetic into something more formulaic and created upscale Rune bars, but thankfully, some still retain rustic charms such as Zimpla Kurt, the first Rune bar in the city located in a condemned building that was once a former stove factory. When you go around Hungary, you'll find that the country has lots of taxis scattered within the vicinity of their cities. But be warned, Hungary is known to have shady situations when it comes to taxis. Locals and tourists call them the hyenas. For example, sometimes drivers will tamper with their meters and charge you 4 times the normal rate. Other drivers put a flat rate and charge you 50 euros for a short ride. Paying with credit cards or anything that uses a POS terminal is also not recommended, because some taxi drivers may put an extra 0 in your total, charging you 10 times the fare. That's why you should always avoid freelance taxis that are waiting for their victims. Some ways to spot these freelance drivers are a sign on the side of their door that says freelancer and a taxi sign on top of the car in black. They're operating on their own and often charge high prices to foreigners. Always go for the official taxis with company logos on the door and the top of their car. All established taxi companies have their apps, so try to always order one from there to get a fair fare and safe ride. Budapest, the country's capital, is also the capital of caves. The wondrous nature goes along underneath Budapest's buildings and streets, creating an interesting juxtaposition. There are over 200 caves in the beautiful city, and they also come with their thermal water sources. According to scientists, the thermal water sources were the ones that carved out natural caves underneath the Buda Hills. One of the longest caves in Budapest, called Paljovi, is more than 7 kilometers in length. It consists of a multi-level labyrinth that you can get lost in if you're not careful. There's also the Semlohedi cave, with dazzling crystals and minerals lining its walls, creating a sparkling and shimmering effect when you walk through it. But if you're after something more eerie, try the Buda Castle Labyrinth underground cave, where you can step inside the legendary Dracula's chamber, where King Matthias was imprisoned in the 15th century. Hungary is always respectful of its history. One of their most precious assets is their Budapest Subway system, which is the continent's oldest metro. One of the very first passengers was Austrian Emperor and King of Hungary, Franz Joseph I, and soon enough they were transporting hundreds of people underground. The historic line is called the Yellow Line and still carries thousands of passengers every day now. It was a major factor in Budapest earning a listing as UNESCO World Heritage Site. Stepping inside their stations would be like stepping into a time machine, because they still preserve the original condition of the subway since its first opening in 1896. When you go to Hungary, there's a sight you can't miss. A mummified right fist of a 1,000-year-old Saint King inside the Basilica of Saint Stephen, known as the Holy Right. The hand belonged to King Stephen, who welded the Magyars into a state and introduced Christianity. He was also considered the longest reigning and one of the most successful kings in Hungary, setting the region on modernization and development. The mummified hand is brought out every year on August 20th for St. Stephen's Day. Saint Stephen was canonized in 1083, and his corpse was exhumed in the same year. Surprisingly, people found his right hand to still be as fresh as the day he was buried. Although it's shrunken and yellowed now, the hand still has an air of righteous defiance, formed into a tight fist and clutching precious jewels. Hungary is known as a country where there are lots of Nobel laureates. But did you know that they have a statue that can turn you into a great writer? The statue is of an anonymous person who is thought to be a monk who lived in the 12th century as the notary to King Bela III. According to legend, he wrote the first Hungarian history book called Gesta Hungarorum. It was written in Latin and chronicles the ancient history of the Hungarians and their journey from Scythia to the founding of Hungary in the Carpathian Basin. You can find the book in the National Széchenyi Library. The mysterious man never signed his work with his name, but only as Master P. A young sculptor named Miklós Ligeti created the statue in 1902 and placed it near the Heroes Square in the city as a gift to Franz Joseph I of Austria. The dark and gloomy statue might look more like a grim reaper than a monk, but many come to see it and touch its pen because it's said that touching the monk's pen will make you a better or even a renowned writer. You might know the story of Count Dracula, but do you know that Hungary has its version of it? Even more intriguing, the Hungarian vampire is a woman named Elizabeth Bathory. She's also known as the Scary Countess of Hungary, or the most successful woman serial killer of all time. According to history, the Hungarian Countess was known to have slayed more than 600 young women and girls inside her lavish castle. She believed that bathing in their blood would grant her eternal youth. Her violent tendencies were due to her upbringing and the bad influence of her equally sadistic husband, Count Ferenc Nadasdy. Throughout the years, she was able to acquire hundreds of victims, but she was finally apprehended in 1610. What made people start to take notice, you ask? Instead of sticking to peasants, Elizabeth also preyed on fellow nobles, something authorities finally couldn't ignore. At the end of numerous trials involving hundreds of witnesses, she was arrested for the murder of 80 young women and locked inside a jail until she died in 1914. You can now find a replica of Elizabeth and stare her in the eye in the Bathory Castle and Wax Museum at Nyírbátor, 170 miles from Budapest. In a country filled with historical pride and unique mysteries, Hungary continues to surprise and fascinate us with its many strange facts. From peculiar traditions driven by historical tragedy to remarkable natural wonders, there's always more to uncover in this beautiful country. Whether you're a curious traveler or a history enthusiast, Hungary always has something that everyone can explore. So if you find yourself wandering the streets of a Hungarian city, don't forget to keep an eye out for some hidden gems.